Friends and learners, welcome to this video lecture on ICT Meaning, Nature and Scope. This is the first video lecture in this Staff Development Training Program number 3, ICTs in Distance Education and Online Learning. In this video lecture, I will be talking about what ICT is about, its nature and scope. I will be also touching upon in brief what open and distance learning is, and at the end of this session I will give you an idea about the different ICTs technologies which we can use in the open and distance learning and online education. So to start with, as I said, in brief we will discuss about the concept of open and distance learning. You are also aware about some of the related terms like non-formal education, distance education, correspondence education, open learning and the open and distance learning. These terms are sometimes interchangeably used. Now when we look at the term open and distance learning, you will see two terms. The first one is open learning and the second one is distance learning. Now let us see what open learning is. See, open learning is basically a philosophy. By that I mean the students or the learners are open to take admission, open to give an examination, which means when a student or learner is failing to take admission in a particular program, he should have a scope for that. Once he gets enrolled in any program and he feels I am ready to give my examination, there should be a scope for giving examination. So this is in brief. Now if you say a definition, you can see open learning is an arrangement to enable people to learn at the time, place and pace which satisfy their circumstances and requirements. The emphasis is on opening up opportunities by overcoming the barriers that results from geographical isolation, personal or work commitments or conventional course structures which have often prevented people from gaining access to the training they need. This is one of the definitions given by Manpower Services Commission. So if you see this definition, you can see, and as I was quoting out, I was discussing the learners are free to take admission whenever they are ready to take admission. They learn when they are ready. They give examination when they are ready. It's completely open. You can also see another definition, a wide range of learning opportunities that both aim to assist learners in gaining access to knowledge and skills they would otherwise be denied, and to give learners the optimum degree of control over their learning. Given by Dixon in 1987. So very simple that way. In a normal face-to-face conventional classroom, the students are required to go to the educational institutions. They will be studying for a complete year. This is rigid. By that, students have to go to the classrooms and they have to learn. But open learning, we don't have to go to the classrooms. We get the study materials, we learn our own, we give examination when we are ready. So this is in brief open learning. Now coming to, as I was saying, open and distance learning, the first term is open learning, second is distance learning. Before we discuss about distance learning, as I said, there is a term like distance education also. So we will discuss about distance education in brief, then we will see what distance learning is. One of the definitions of distance education says, this is an independent study which consists of various forms of teaching learning arrangements in which teachers and learners carry out their essential tasks and responsibilities apart from one another, communicating in a variety of ways. Its purposes are to free on campus or internal learners from inappropriate class, placing or patterns, to provide off campus or external learners with the opportunity to continue learning in their environments, in their own environments, and to develop in all learners the capacity to carry on self-directed learning, the ultimate maturity record of the educated person. Wedemeyer in 1977. So, very simple friends, we don't have to have a rigid structure. Students, learners take admission, they will be provided with self-learning materials, self-instructional materials, they will carry, they will study on their own, they will give the examination and earn the degree. It is unlike the face-to-face education. We don't have to go to the institution and engage in the teaching learning processes. You can also see another definition which is given by the Commonwealth of Learning, which says distance education is a process of teaching and learning characterized by the separation of teacher and learner in time and or place for most of the educational transaction, mediated by technology for delivering learning content, but with the possibility of face-to-face interaction for learner-teacher and learner-learner interaction, and provision of two-way didactic communication. Distance is about the transactional distance and not the physical distance. It is a conceptual construct with the two key dimensions, structure and dialogue. Programs with more structure and less dialogue are considered to have more distance. So, in distance education, the learner and teacher is separated in time and place, but this is not the case of face-to-face education or conventional teaching learning practices, where teachers and students, they are physically present at the classrooms and they engage in the teaching learning process. Here in distance education, they are separated. Self-learning is the key of the distance education. So friends, this is in brief distance education. Now let us combine these two terms, the open and distance learning, and this is what the open and distance learning. See, there are different modes of education. One is the face-to-face education, which we also call conventional or traditional education. The second one is open and distance learning. The third, maybe we can say online education, which is also almost like open and distance learning. And the fourth category is a mix of both traditional and face-to-face and the open and distance learning, the traditional and open and distance learning, which is the blended mode of education. Now see, what is open and distance learning? We have seen open learning and distance learning. Open learning and distance learning, they are combined to form the open and distance learning. And if we say the definition, we can say open and distance learning is the provision of distance education opportunities in ways that seek to mitigate or remove barriers to access, such as finances, prior learning, age, social, work or family commitments, disability, incarceration or other such barriers. Open refers to a commitment that removes any unnecessary barriers to access learning. Distance education refers to teaching and learning that temporarily separates teacher and learner in time and place, uses multiple media for delivery of instruction, involves two-way communication and possibly occasional face-to-face meeting for tutorials and learner-learner interaction. Open learning is not the same as distance learning, but both are complementary and hence The two terms are often used together as open and distance learning. When I was talking about distance education, I was saying it is not like the face-to-face education. In distance education, the student and teacher, they are separated. But what about the case of distance learning? In distance learning, it talks more about self-learning. And we are combining these two terms, open and distance learning, and it leads to open and distance learning. So in open and distance learning, both the teacher and students, they are separated. They will be provided with self-learning materials. In addition to self-learning materials, there will be multiple instructional medias, multiple media, which would also help the students to understand the subject. And there will be possibility of meeting the learners. It can be using any technologies or in face-to-face also. So all these combines to form the mode of education or the practices of open and distance learning. Now, what is the importance of open and distance learning? One is the democratization of education. See, all the students may not be getting equal access to go to the traditional face-to-face educational institutions. So we have to reach, the country has to give education to all the students who decides to take education. The face-to-face education is very limited in terms of its enrollment. So one way out is they can practice the open and distance learning mode of education, so that it will reach to all the students, all the learners who decides to take education. Second is quality education. We can give very good quality educational input, education to the students and learners. Third, affordability. The face-to-face education, we need to construct the buildings. There are many other infrastructural facilities which are required for conducting face-to-face education, which is not that way very much required in the ODL system. So the cost comes drastically down in the case of open and distance learning. The fourth one is we can offer different types of courses. So these are some of the points which we can consider when we talk about the importance of ODL. Now, how ODL institutions function? As you see in the slide, I had given a structure of one of the biggest ODL universities in the world, which is the Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU. IGNOU has a three-tier system. It starts with, IGNOU has a headquarter which controls the overall function of the university. Then there is a regional center which is located at, in fact, many regional centers. These regional centers are spread across the country. There are regional centers in different states. After regional center, under each regional center, you can see different study centers. So how it happens? Normally students used to go to the study center, that is the first meeting point of the learner. If they have any issue, sometimes in the beginning they take admission by visiting the study centers. And this is the first contact point of the students or learners. If they have any issues, if they want to attend any counseling sessions, if they want to get the study materials, they usually visit the study center. Then the next contact pointer, a level up, is the regional center. They can also contact the regional center. And above all, the headquarter. So the faculties are housed at the headquarter. There are different divisions, there are different sections. To manage the regional centers, there is regional services division. To manage the assessment activities, there is student evaluation division. There is a section which deals about the registration activities, which is student registration division. Then different schools of study, different faculties. So, the faculties develop the self-learning materials and it is distributed either online or offline. So, in brief, this is how it works: a 3-tier system: headquarter, regional center and study center. Coming to the different characteristics of ODL, one is flexibility. As I was saying in the beginning, it is not completely open, but there are many universities which give maximum flexibility in terms of admission, study, giving examination. So, it is completely flexible. The absence of physical presence of teacher and learners in teaching learning, but there are some courses which requires the presence of teacher. This is conducted at the study centers or counseling centers. The ODL institutions also makes use of different modes of instructional delivery. One of the major modes of instructional delivery is through the print technologies, self-learning materials or self-instructional materials. The subject content is prepared in the form of self-instructional material or self-learning material, and this is distributed to the students. When the students read the self-learning material, when they get some doubt or when they are stuck up, to help such students, support services are provided in the form of teleconferencing lectures or radio lectures. Even there are many social media platforms also. All those social media platforms are also used for instructional delivery. Self-learning is another characteristics. Then in ODL institution, unlike in the face-to-face education, large number of students take admission. So, in brief, these are some of the characteristics of open and distance learning. Friends, now we are coming to the ICT, very important ICT. How and what is ICT? When we talk about ICT, and as you see, this comprises of 3 terms: the information, communication and technology. And this is what information and communication technology. So, in brief, I would say ICTs are nothing but they are the technologies for communicating information. One of the simplest definition maybe we can say regarding ICT. Maybe a more advanced or little more deep definition, we can say ICTs are nothing but they are the technologies which are used to store, process, transmit, convert, duplicate or receive digital or electronic information. I would make it very simple. Say for example, as a teacher of distance education, I like to give a lecture to my learners. The number of learners are huge in number, say for example 1000 or 5000. So, how it is going to be possible? How I would convey my information, the subject information to my students? Of course, we can use technologies. Say for example, I am using the Facebook. So, I can organize a Facebook live lecture. I can organize a lecture through the Facebook, and this will be live streamed through the Facebook. So, what happens here? As a teacher, I am conveying the subject information from my end to my learners using the Facebook technology, we can say. So, then we are making use of technologies to convey information. So, when I make use of the Facebook, I can definitely say I am making use of ICTs in my teaching learning processes. So, friends, when we talk about ICTs, we can say there are electronic or digital devices, and you are very well aware that they don't work on their own. Say for example, the computer, camera, mobile devices. Okay. So to work these devices, we need to have application softwares also. So ICTs includes both the digital devices and application softwares. Computer, camera, mobile devices, social networks, virtual reality, instant messaging, different softwares, different internet services. So all these put together, we can say they are nothing but their technologies, and they are used to convey information from one end to the other. And in the case of educational processes, the information from the teacher is transmitted, shared with the students. So we can say ICTs are nothing but they are the technologies used to store and transmit the information. I would also give one more example. Say for example, if I am making use of some video programs, so you think of the processes that as a teacher I would have gone through. I would prepare my script, then I would develop the video program. This will be stored in any of my digital devices, and when it is required, this will be transmitted, shared with my students. So that's why we call it as ICTs are nothing but they are the technologies to store, process, transmit and duplicate information. So you can put in, you can say that any technologies which you use for completing all these activities are ICTs. Now, how ICTs are used in the distance education? Primarily, we can say this is used for instructional delivery, teaching learning processes, can be used in assessment of your students' progress, managing various activities which happens in Odl institutions, teaching learning processes. This can also be used for giving different student support services. Now, why ICTs are used? This will help you to develop, enhance the interest in learning among the students. Our interactivity enhances. Students can collaboratively, they can work in group, collaboration is enhanced. Creativity also increases. The communication is also fast and the frequency is also more. Otherwise, in face-to-face education, teachers goes to the classroom, teachers goes back and they see their students in the next classroom. But if you are using any ICTs, you can be connected with your students all the time, 24/7. The personalization and self-learning. You are developing a video program, you are giving to the students, they watch it, they learn on their own, self-learning. You can also give updated content. See, in Odl institution, one of the major technologies is the print technologies. We are printing the self-learning materials and distributed to the students. Once it is printed, it takes some time to revise it. But if you are using any ICTs like e-text or interactive text, this can always be modified, revised at any point of time. So that way you can give updated content to the students. Now let us talk about the different ICTs or technologies which we can use in the open and distance learning, or this can also be used in the online education. One of the major technologies is the print technologies. Print technologies, by that I mean the self-learning materials or self-instructional materials. Usually we make use of any text making software for that, Microsoft Word, Google Doc, etc. This is printed in hard copy form and it is distributed to the students. Now, with the advancement in technologies, these hard copy texts are converted to e-text or interactive text. So we don't have to take the pain of printing such text. This is available in the same software which can be read using any electronic devices. PDF softwares are also used. We can also create flip books, it gives the feel of real books, just like turning the pages. So, there are different technologies. Second is learning management system. They are softwares for managing the complete teaching learning activities, and you are aware that we are using the Moodle software. The whole teaching learning processes happens through this learning management system. So, that is also one of the technologies which can be used in the ODL system. Television, radio, teleconferencing, these are also used. Television can be used for various purposes, for giving live lectures. If you want to have interaction between the student and teacher, that facility can also be brought in. The same is possible with the radios also. In teleconferencing also, teleconferencing is basically a conferencing kind of a arrangement. So, if you want to have interactivity, teleconferencing can also be used. Now, mobile devices is another technology. We call mobile devices like smartphones or Android phones also. Tablets are also considered as mobile devices. So, if you have e-text with you in your institution, the mobile version can be made, or even the PDF or Word document can also be read using the mobile devices like smartphones and tablets. You can also mobile devices to give general information regarding counseling classes, admissions, examination. So, there are many possibilities. The next one is social media. There are different social media platforms. They are the social software applications used for developing networks. There are many social media platforms, like if you want to create some social networks, Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. can be used. If you want to share your photographs sharing social media can be used. If you want to share your video programs, video sharing platforms like YouTube can be used. So, there are different social media platforms. Say for example, if you want to send information to 1,000 students, lakhs of students who have enrolled in your organization, institution, and if you want to give a general information, maybe Twitter you can use. So, there are many ways social media can be used. Another major technology ICT is the email, which is nothing but the way of sending information electronically, electronic mail. So, emails can also be used. Then another technology ICT is the discussion forum. See, in a normal classroom, teachers usually engage their students in the classroom teaching learning activities. They may be grouping the students and they will be directed to discuss on a particular topic. This is equally possible in the virtual space also. For that, we make use of discussion forum. So, there are different discussion forum sites also. So, discussion forum is also one of the ICTs. Another important ICT is the open educational resources. They are nothing but they are the digital resources which have an license attached to it. Very popular license attached to open educational resources are the Creative Commons license. So, friends, there are digital teaching learning resources which are available in the internet, and as a course coordinator or course instructor, you do not have to develop the teaching learning resources, digital resources all the time. Why? Because they are available in the internet. But we cannot take all the digital resources which are available in the internet. We have to take permission, and there are copyright issues associated with such resources. But there are digital resources which are which you can freely use. You do not have to take the permission of the author, but definitely you have to acknowledge their work. So, such digital teaching learning resources which are available on the internet having a license with it. Such resources are called open education resources. So, you are free to take such resources. This can be given to your students, shared with your students. They can study reading such text materials, watching videos, etc. So, open resources, it is not only limited to text material. Open resources, open education resources can be text material, video, audio, it can be of any digital form. So, OER is also another important ICTs which can be used in the Odl system. So, friends, so these are some of the technologies which you can use in the open and distance learning. With this, I am concluding my lecture. In this video lecture, we have talked about in brief what open distance learning is about, the different aspects of open distance learning. Then we have discussed about ICT, and finally we have discussed about some of the major technologies or ICTs which we can use in open distance learning and online education. I hope you have understood the concepts that we have discussed today. Thank you.